Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game So taking another fun and exciting episode for you guys today because I'm playing Blood 2 The Chosen. But I'm playing this with a recently released compilation of patches and different fixes that are going to make running this game on Windows 10 or 11 an absolute breeze. If you've ever tried to get Blood 2 running on a modern PC, trust me, it is filled with crashes and it is an absolute pain in the ass compared to any sort of modern executable. And even though this is basically just a very simple project to make a game run better, it's the type of thing I absolutely love because it keeps some fun games alive, so that's exactly what I'm going to be talking about today. Before I get too far involved though, it'd be a huge favor down below, hit like and subscribe and ring that notification bell, definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, we got a Patreon link down below as well. Now Blood 2 definitely occupies a very interesting place in the overall pantheon of sequels to first-person shooter games that we loved back in the early to mid-90s. That is to say that maybe Blood 2 is better than people gave it credit for back in the day, but it's still such a large departure from the original Blood that it makes you wonder what Monolith was doing when they decided to make this game the particular theme that it is. But as far as the patches are concerned and the improvements, all I had to do was patch the overall executable with the new files, and then everything ran on my system with no issues whatsoever outside of that little bit of a weird mouse cursor that sometimes gets stuck in the middle of the screen during cutscenes. I tried to run this game without the patches first just to see what my system would do with it, and I basically couldn't even get the damn thing to launch. And that is one of the unfortunate things about PC gaming in general, especially from games of this era. They will run on the actual operating systems they were intended to run on, but trying to get them to run on Windows 10 or 11, even in compatibility mode, is absolutely an exercise in futility. You spend more time getting the game to run than you actually do playing it, and crashes, freezes, and overall hangs are just going to be part and parcel, part of the experience. That is never fun for anybody. So I really appreciate the fans do stuff like this, getting all these patches made, compiled together, and then put into one zip file. So if you want to replay Blood 2, you can just sit down and enjoy it like it was intended to be enjoyed if you had this game day one back in the day. And even though Blood 2 never lived up to the hype of the original Blood, it does have a fun sense of dark humor, as you can clearly see here with this little bit of a washing machine mishap.
I don't know. He just stuck his head in too far, I guess.
I mean, definitely ill-advised to stick your head all the way into a washing machine until you get stuck, but that definitely is a very popular storyline in some forms of entertainment these days, if you know what I mean. But honestly, Blood 2 is a game that is so much more fun if you just kind of pretend that the original Blood doesn't exist. And I know that's not something that you should say about games when you're reviewing them, but it really does kind of aid in this game being way better than you remember and way better than you've heard. Because the reality is the original Blood was just a masterpiece of first-person shooter fun back in the day, and honestly, that game just recently got another re-release by Night Dive. It is just one of those titles that is Hall of Fame good, and Blood 2 definitely had a lot to live up to, and because technology was changing, honestly, it's one of those things they were definitely at a disadvantage. Now, the one strange thing's always been to me, at least, that they decided to take Blood and then move it into the 2000s era when the original Blood was obviously much earlier in time, and I think that definitely tripped a lot of people up. But today, again, with all of these patches, you can sit down and appreciate the game for what it is. And honestly, just playing through this when I found out about this and decided maybe it would make a good video, I was having a ton of fun. And in the background, after I finished all these captures, I have finished Blood 2 on this version. I tested everything on Windows 10. I put it on my Windows 11 laptop with all of the patches that are linked in the description below, and I did not have a single crash. I didn't have a single issue. I didn't have a single save get corrupted. I just sat down and played this like it was something that came out on Steam yesterday. And as far as actual preservation of games are concerned and making them run better on modern operating systems, that is an absolute testament to just how good all of this is. Because trust me, every single other patch pack that I've used to try to get games running better, including all of the fast loading and fast saving, that's something that I always had at least one or two crashes on. But Blood 2, 100% from start to finish, I was able to get through the game with no issues whatsoever. I just sat down and had fun. And because I wasn't really thinking about the original Blood when I was playing, I was more playing it from the perspective of how well does it work now. I had even more fun than I did back in the day. But for soundtrack sample time, and I'll be right back with a lot more patch notes.
Come out, we won't hurt you. You will die a slow death.
Victims? Aren't we all?
high peaks and there's the sun god, the center of
I mean, not only does the game have good voice acting, good sound effects, and a great soundtrack, but it also just runs here on a modern operating system, and that's something that I've always struggled with in some retro PC games. I can get them running, but you just can't actually get the soundtrack to play. And you'll see there, you did see that little mouse cursor in the middle, that spinning wheel. It shows up every once in a while, and that's the only thing I could point out in Blood 2 that wasn't working 100% correctly. And honestly, if I didn't point it out, you probably would never notice. But think about all of the fun games you played in Windows 98 and Windows XP that you'd love to go back to, and they just do not run on modern operating systems. That is why I and a lot of other people keep retro PCs around. I've got a Windows 98 build, I've got a Windows XP build, but they can be tricky to deal with in and of themselves, getting data over, trying to get online to grab patches and things for games. So I'd rather play on my main editing rig, which is still on Windows 10 because I refuse to go to Windows 11 until they make me, and then not actually have to work at getting these games to run, because that's where my best monitors are. That's where I have all of my good keyboards and mice and every other control input versus my retro PCs. And that is why I love packages like this, because honestly, Blood 2 is a good game. It isn't a great game compared to the original, but if you stop thinking about it again, it's a good time. And because Half-Life existed, it wasn't really surprising that a lot of developers are trying to kind of be that exact same game, because this doesn't really have quote-unquote levels. It has areas where you're just going to go through loading screens to get from one area to the other. So you can definitely tell that Monolith Software was inspired by a lot of the other games that were successful on the market, and maybe that didn't work as well for something like Blood, because as far as the theming is concerned, maybe not as cool as that like 1920s era, almost Victorian style of the original, but this one definitely has a lot of fun here, and all of the voice acting, totally hokey, totally cheesy, but absolutely just kind of endemic of the era. And again, this game was just rock solid stable, and that's what really matters to me. I didn't have to think about the fact that I was playing a very old PC game on my modern PC. I just had to think about having fun and shooting the bad guys in front of me and staying alive, and that really is what I want when I'm playing a game. And if for some strange reason you just heard a little tiny woofs in the voiceover, that is because my corgi Mari is behind me in her bed and she decided to start dreaming. I'm assuming she's dreaming about more games from back in the day that just run on Windows 10, the same way we all do dream about that. All jokes aside, I figured as opposed to having comments being, "Is there a dog woofing in the background?" you got to hear it from me first. But honestly, again, I really can't find anything to fault about this patch package and how the developers have gotten everything to work. Obviously, we have that Voodoo Glide emulation working perfectly fine. Everything looks great, at least on my NVIDIA 3080 Ti. Now, if you're on AMD, maybe there could be some sort of issue, but I doubt it. But it's one of those things, at least on my specs, there were no issues. And like I said, I tested this both on my Windows 10 editing PC, as well as my Windows 11 gaming laptop, and mostly editing laptop, and I was able to have everything work exactly like I wanted it to, including all of the quick saves and quick loads. And again, for some reason, that's something that always seems to break on my systems when I'm trying to play retro PC games with some sort of compatibility layer. But one more soundtrack sample so you hear how good the audio is in this build, and I'll be right back with a little bit more on how to play the game.
I wish you wouldn't do that.
And it wouldn't be a retro first-person shooter if they didn't shove you into a sewer at some point in time. That was basically just kind of one of the tropes of the genre back in the day, and something that we still see. So if you want to play this today, the patcher is down below. It is a link to a website where you can grab that. And all you need to do is run the executable and point it to wherever your Blood 2 files are. And I'm sure you own a disc, but there is other ways to go ahead and find it as well. And honestly, it just worked the first time I used it. It patched everything up. I double-clicked on the Blood 2 executable, and I was into the game, playing and capturing like it was a modern release. It just has some retro-style graphics. And again, that is fun, because trying to get some stuff to run on Windows 10 or Windows 11 is an absolute metric pain in the ass, and it drives me insane, and it makes me not want to play the game. I just want to double click an executable, sit down, have fun, and move on with my day, and that's exactly what you get here out of Blood 2. If you've ever played the game before, leave me a comment down below and let me know what you think, and definitely play the original Blood if you haven't. So I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.